This week on the podcast, we talk about how to avoid getting scammed in your business and how do you get some free, juicy cash from HMRC. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6 and 7 figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancock, is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow and grow your business. So, Claire, this week we are extra prepared for the podcast because we've had an extra couple of hours of work today, haven't we? Why?
Oh, because our cleaners arrived at like 7 o'clock this morning and we were still fast asleep in bed. And then there's just 2 random people in our house.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know they started before 8. So, I mean, they wake us up at 8 sometimes, but, you know.
Yeah. We are not early risers, are we? We like to go to bed about midnight and we get up every morning, 8 o'clock on a weekday, 9 o'clock on a weekend.
Yeah, I don't believe all this nonsense, all this, get up at 5, smash the day and all that malarkey that you hear from people. And that's how to be successful. And to be honest with you, I read in the Sunday Times every week and they do these interviews with big CEOs. And it's always the same old nonsense. I get up at 5, I go to the gym, I do this. I finish at 7. Some people, this is like different people profiles, isn't it? Some people's profiles are, they're highly morning people and they really lose their focus into the evening. I'm like a complete evening person. I could work up till midnight, but try and get me to do anything before 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a bloody nightmare, but
we are a bit opposite like that. I am a morning person. I like to get up at
you've got both ends of the spectrum, which is you're a morning person, but you don't really get going till 9, 10 o'clock, but then you burn out by 1. It's like
no. My preference would be to get up at about 6:37 every day, and I am most productive in the morning. But
don't you?
Well, because we live together, and.
That doesn't make any difference.
Because when I used to get up at sort of 6:37, like you say, you'd still be in bed for another couple of hours, and then I burn out by normally about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. I'm done, and I just want to veg on the sofa and do nothing. But that's the time that you are raring to go. You like to go out in the evenings and things like that. So
I like to do my hardest work after 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so I've had to learn to adapt to you. I think for the sake of a happy home.
No, you don't have to. You don't. Honestly, you can do what you want. I don't mind. You get up at 7. It doesn't make any difference. If if it packs in some benefits for you, then it's all good. But yeah, so rudely awakened by the cleaners this morning,
and they were so chirpy as well.
I know, don't you hate it? It's because the sun was out.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, this week I'm excited. I think our listeners are going to be like mad excited about this because how do you get free cash from the HMRC? I mean, HMRC only ever take your cash, so I can't wait to hear the tips you're going to give us, Claire, for how we get some cash back from HMRC. So we're going to move on to that a bit later. But first of all, let's move on to this week's news story of the week.
So this week's news story of the week is also about HMRC, but not such a good news story. So I was like blown away when I heard this. And as an accountant, I actually got an email from my accountancy body as a warning that this was going on and to say, watch out for it, check for your clients, because HMRC still accepts a lot of paper forms. And you can submit a paper form to HMRC to change the bank details that they issue refunds into. So if you're due like a VAT refund, corporation tax refund, PAYE, anything like that, you can submit a paper form and HMRC will change their bank details on their system and then send refunds automatically. Now, what I found really staggering is that HMRC do no checks to validate that the change of bank details is legitimate or anything like that. So what had happened is that it's actually become a big thing for scammers is they've started submitting all of these paper forms, changing legitimate companies, changing their bank details to the scammers' banks. And HMRC have processed these forms and incorrectly paid tax refunds to scammers rather than the legitimate business. And the reason why I just found this so shocking is this is like 101 in this day and age, that when you get a change of bank details from anybody that you work with, a supplier mostly, but absolutely anybody, that you contact them and validate those bank details. That is like a number one rule. And I am just flabbergasted that HMRC don't have those processes in place.
Yeah, I agree. When you told me about this disgusts me very much so, because it's just another example of a government-run organisation where there's one rule for us and one rule for them. Because, it's the reality is they won't care. They'll lose money. They'll get scammed. There's no accountability because there are, as with all these things, they're a complete monopoly. So there's no commercial fighting around that. So they'll just, put up taxes and fill the hole that way. They don't care, do they?
What I found most shocking about it was, as a business, if you fell for this, so if this happened with one of your suppliers and the scammers sent you a fake email or letter and you sent a payment that you thought was going to your supplier, but it actually went to the scammers, the banks won't really help you. There's nothing they can do. It's your fault. You should have checked the bank details. You let the process down. So the onus is on you as the business to put a process in place to make sure that you don't just accept any old change of bank details and you validate it. So the best way to do that is to pick up the telephone, use a telephone number that you know and trust, and contact them that way. But with HMRC, when they made this announcement to say we're aware that this has happened, instead of letting us know all the new processes and procedures that they put in place to prevent this happening again, they put the onus back on the business and said, we recommend that you log on to your HMRC online account and check that this hasn't happened to you, and check that your bank details are correct. And I just thought that was just shocking, that they have no acceptance of blame in this and no desire to seemingly put a process in place to improve it.
No, they don't. And if you turn that the other way round towards banks, the government always puts the onus on banks to protect themselves against the frauds and the scams, and it's their responsibility and they are accountable for it and they have to pay back. Again, it's kind of one rule for them, one rule for the others type thing.
And as somebody that has come from the corporate world where we work with international businesses, particularly European businesses, if you want to do anything with like the equivalent, so Netherlands is a good example of this. When we needed like the equivalent of HMRC in the Netherlands, when we needed to be able to access VAT, PAYE, corporation tax with that Dutch business, was like war and peace trying to get access to the online account to be able to do things. Like, you must have a valid ID card. And because I wasn't a Dutch resident, I actually had to go all the way to the Netherlands and go to the local council office with a notary who could sign my passport just so I could get access to this account. And that was the only way that you can do absolutely anything related to that business. But yet in the UK, we still accept paper forms from any Tom, Dick and Harry. It really is balmy.
I think there's a simple sort of tip here for business owners, certainly that I follow now to protect against these things. And that is just simply, certainly with anything of a reasonable sort of value, it's pick up the phone, speak to them, ask them to reconfirm their bank details over the phone and use a number that you know is that organisation. But the other thing to look out for all the time is if any supplier that you pay changes their bank details for any reason, you have to do a first port validation on that over the phone. Make sure that's right, because that's the most likely infiltrated scam out there at the moment.
Do not email them as well, because I worked with a supplier. In fact, I have a YouTube video about this, because I worked with a supplier and their email was infiltrated and they didn't realise. So they were sending us what looked like legitimate emails from their email address, just saying we've changed our bank details, and we couldn't contact them by telephone. And the accounts payable person persevered and actually got in touch with them via, I think it was like Facebook or LinkedIn or something. And it had happened to loads of their customers. They'd all been sent these fake invoices saying, by the way, we've just changed our bank details, and it was all a big scam. And
this is going to just get worse and worse and worse with AI. I mean, they were talking recently about voice cloning. I was listening to, they can take 15 seconds of your voice and they can completely... Warren Buffett came out and said this, that if he could invest in any company now, it would be the scamming company. If it was legal to invest in scamming, he said, we are so now going into a 10, 20 year with AI where this is going to be the most lucrative business for somebody to do, especially when they can clone people's entire voice. And somebody did it with his voice, and he said, I couldn't tell it wasn't me. And that's the scariness. The other, I just wanted to pick up another news story this week around iPhone PIN codes that I hadn't actually thought about this, and I think it's worth mentioning because it is quite dangerous. And this is this new thing called shoulder surfing, and this is the idea that people are, scammers are out there looking over people's shoulder to get their PIN number that they put into their iPhone or their other, Android phone and various other things. And it's because once you've got the PIN code to the phone, it actually gives you complete access to banking, to, ordering on Amazon apps and various other things. I think it's quite frightening, actually. And I'd never really realised that you should treat the PIN code to your phone like you would treat the PIN code to your cash machine in terms of covering it. And you can even buy these things like privacy screens that you put on your iPhone now so that people can't see over your shoulder and various other things. But and you said this to me, you said, well, they can't do that because of Face ID, Touch ID, but the PIN code overwrites biometrics in your banking apps and all the rest of it, and it's pretty scary stuff. So I certainly changed my attitude towards, what I'm doing when I'm putting my PIN code in my phone. If I'm using my PIN code over the biometrics, try and always have your biometrics set up if you have that, so you're not using the PIN code, because and treat it like you would a cash machine. Cover it up. Don't let anybody look over your shoulder. I think this will be a big thing.
Yeah, it's a scary world we live in when, your number one priority every day is to try and prevent yourself from getting scammed at literally everywhere you turn now. So
I think technology has totally enabled this, hasn't it? It's a reality. So anyway, let's get some cash from the HMRC.
I'm going to talk today about how you can get free money from HMRC.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So we're so used to sending them all of our hard-earned cash, aren't we? Now, unfortunately, it's not free money. It's more like a cash flow boost. But I'm going to talk about three.
I knew there was a trick.
There was a trick, I know. But 3 different ways that you can get a cash flow boost from HMRC. It's completely free. That's the best bit about it. And most of these are super simple to set up. It's not like you need to do an application form or anything like that. So
yeah, the first one's one that I have set up for my business. You got me to set up, which is the VAT direct debit, which comes out quite a bit after the sort of the quarter end. So tell us a bit about that one to start with.
Yeah, so when I go into a lot of businesses and they don't trust direct debits for some reason, and they don't trust the banking system. So a lot of businesses, your VAT payment is due on the 7th of the month, your quarterly payment. So a lot of business owners will set that up normally around like the 2nd or the 3rd to leave their bank so they can double check it's left their bank and sort of have this belt and braces approach. But I always say just set up a direct debit payment, because once it's set up, it's so unlikely to fail. And I've worked with businesses where, there's been like a technical issue at the bank, and as long as you've got that evidence, HMRC, should a payment ever fail, as long as you've got the evidence that it was a banking issue or absolutely out of your control, then HMRC would generally accept that and not have a problem or fine you or anything like that.
Would you're saying about direct debits failing? I didn't know that was even a thing. Is that a thing?
No, it's incredibly rare. It's like when you see on the news that, one of the big banks has gone down or something like that. It's that like type of news story.
Industry, major, because I can't.
That's how rare it is.
It's never happened to me and with any direct debit.
No, I mean, you have to remember that the UK is like renowned for its financial systems throughout the world. Like they are belt and braces. They pretty much cannot go wrong. So yeah, if you've got a direct debit, it's going to go out. I mean, has your mortgage payment ever not gone?
No.
No.
Nothing does it.
Is your mobile phone bill ever not been taken from your account? It never
fine.
Not goes. So anyway, set up the direct debit with HMRC. And the reason why this gives you a cash flow boost is that you don't have to submit your VAT return until the 7th of every month. So HMRC will not actually look at all of the balances on VAT accounts until the 8th of the month. So they then, therefore, once they've looked at all the balances on the 8th of the month, they set up the direct debits on their side. And it means that because of the UK banking system, you get an extra 3 days for payment. So normally the direct debit gets taken out of your bank, depending on the working days, between the 10th and the 12th of the month. So you get up to an extra week's worth of cash flow where you hold on to that cash in your business.
Nice. And for high turnover, hospitality businesses, things like that, it could be a huge sum of money, couldn't it? These guys have got really high VAT bills.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've worked with businesses where VAT bills have literally been like tens of millions. So this is quite a big difference. It may only seem like a few extra days, but if you can hold on to your cash across everything you do, if you can just drag it out a few extra days, that really does add up. And also, it's not just VAT, corporation tax, PAYE, it all works the same, that you get this extra 3 to 5 days if you're paying by direct debit.
Brilliant. So your next one's annual payroll scheme for directors. Tell us a bit about what this is all about.
Yeah, so this is actually this has got 2 benefits to it. Firstly, this could save you some accounting fees, but secondly, it could also boost your cash flow as well. So a lot of directors, because of the way that the tax works, what they do is they pay themselves normally somewhere between about £750 and £1,000 a month on payroll.
Yeah.
And then they top that up with dividends. And it means that they're processing a payroll every single month for the same amount. And normally there's a small amount of national insurance or tax that's got to be paid over to HMRC. The reason that directors are generally on payroll is to get your national insurance contributions that give you entitlement to pensions and things like that.
To meet the minimums.
So rather than doing a monthly payroll, when you're a director, it's perfectly legitimate to do an annual payroll. So instead of having to firstly pay an accountant or a bookkeeper to do your payroll every month for you and then pay any taxes over to HMRC every month, you can just do that once a year. So you get to hold on to a modest amount of money in terms of PAYE and tax, but you get to hold on to that for 15 months extra.
So I understand this practically. Would you not then be able to take that salary monthly though?
No, this is the beauty of it. You can still pay yourself monthly.
Oh.
So I do this in my business. I pay myself £1,000 salary every month, but I don't actually put it onto payroll. I just make the payment on the bank. It goes into what's known as the director's loan.
Yeah.
And then when I get to the end of the year, I look at my business profits and all my other incomes, and I work out the most tax efficient way to extract that money out of my business. Depending on my circumstances, the split between dividends and payroll will change, but I don't make that decision till the end of the year. And at that point, I process the payroll and the money's already paid to me. Any like difference plus or minus is just squared off, and we sort that out then.
Great. And you can only do this with directors, you can't do this with staff?
Well, your staff wouldn't generally accept being paid annually.
What if you had an arrangement with a member of staff to do that? Could you arrange? Is it legit to do that?
Well, you could arrange to pay your employees annually, but legally you have to submit an RTI, which is known as a real-time information submission, to HMRC when you pay employees. The difference with a director is you've got the ability to use what's known as a director's loan. So you can pay yourself out of your business on a monthly basis, but put it down as a director's loan.
Yeah.
And then what happens technically on the last day of the year is, as a director, you repay the director's loan at the same time that you get paid payroll. So it's like an in and out that never actually happens on the bank. It's just a book truing up.
Great. And then the final one you've got on here is the cash counting scheme.
Yes,
What's this all about? It sounds riveting.
Favourite VAT cash accounting scheme.
Okay, let's do VAT again.
When you register as a business for VAT, you go onto what's known as standard VAT. And when you run your VAT return, it's looking at your invoice dates, both your sales invoices and your purchase invoices. So if you're running it for quarter one, it will look for all invoices between January to March and include those in the VAT return. The cash accounting scheme allows you to say, ignore everything that hasn't been paid. Now, this is really incredibly powerful if you're a business that offers credit to their customers. Because if you, for example, Simon, raise an invoice on the 31st of March and you gave your customer 60 days payment terms, they're not going to pay you until the end of May. But you have to pay the VAT over to HMRC on the 7th of May or the 10th of May if you use the direct debit.
Okay.
So
I've got a massive cash flow gap between the two that could cause me real problems with
you're potentially paying VAT to HMRC before your customer has paid that to you. And
scandalous.
So the beauty of the VAT cash accounting scheme is that you only have to pay the VAT over to HMRC once that money has hit your bank account. So you're never at a deficit because of your VAT.
So wouldn't all businesses just be doing this anyway? Is this a secret? Is this something? Is it a hack? Like, why is this not just the thing that they would do? It seems like obvious to me when you say it like that.
If you've got a good bookkeeper or accountant, generally this is bookkeepers that recommend this. Actually, your accountant generally doesn't. If you've got a year-end accountant only, they generally don't give a hoot about your VAT, and they wouldn't recommend this. But it's incredibly easy to do because you don't even need to apply to HMRC to use it. As long as you're eligible, just literally search VAT cash accounting and there's just a one-page explainer on the HMRC webpage. But if your turnover is less than 1.35 million, there's actually just a setting in most bookkeeping systems, so Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, ClearBooks, they've all got it. You just change between VAT, standard VAT and cash accounting VAT, and you don't have to even tell HMRC you're using it. You just change it in your bookkeeping system and it's live. And when I switched a business for this, I worked with a business that actually had to deregister for this because when your turnover gets to 1.6 million, you can't use it anymore.
Okay.
And the impact on their cash flow was £60,000 that they had to find to plug that gap.
Awesome. Well, I'm like rolling in cash now, thanks to all your tips.
Oh, you are welcome, Simon, anytime.
I think, joking aside, I think if you are a business that is a cash hungry business, these little tips and just being able to hold on to those extra days cash here and there really could, make the difference, couldn't they?
And when you're in a small business, the chances of you finding that one like golden goose that moves the dial massively is going to be quite rare. So what you are looking for is these small incremental little pieces that add up.
Yeah.
And we've just gone over 3 things here with HMRC, but I generally go into a business and I could point out 25 different things that business could do just to move the dial by a few hundred, a few thousand here and there, that all of a sudden adds up to improving your cash flow by quite a significant number.
Yeah. You've got a saying on your website, haven't you, about the plane being off course? I'm just looking on the website now, see if I can read it, because I love the saying. There it is, yeah. And it's all about these, tiny micro decisions that just keep the business going in the right direction to reach its destination. So at the bottom of your website, it says, if a plane goes off course just a couple of degrees, it will be hundreds, even thousands of miles. Oh, you've just had a pop-up come up. If a plane goes off course just a couple of degrees, it will be hundreds, even thousands of miles from its intended destination when it arrives.
Yeah, it could end up in the wrong continent.
Yeah, and it's the same with driving your business. Interesting stuff. Well, thanks for that, Claire. Another great bit of insight on how to keep some extra cash in your business. Let's move on to its Profit Cash Growth Extra.
So, for anybody who is a regular listener of the podcast, they will know that me and Son are, let's say, trialling sharing a car at the moment.
We've been doing it it's been over a year now. I think we're well into the trialling. Well,
it's a year in July or June.
It's not trialling. I think it's working. It's fine.
Well, it's debatable. Anyway, every now and again, there are some times where our diaries clash and we both need a car. And I have been using an app called Hire Car, which is spelled Hiya. Hire. As in like, hiya, car. And I am loving it. We have a hire car, which is like a little electric car, and I can just walk to the co-op, which is 10 minutes away, and pick up the electric car and hire it on a day-by-day basis. You can book it on the app. And what I really like about it is it's really good technology. It's like keyless, but it's all controlled by the app. So you walk up to the car, and when you're within a certain range, a little button pops up on the app and it says unlock the car. And then there's no key for the ignition. You literally start the car by the app and everything. So it's really good. But also, as an individual, you can list your own car on there if you've got the right insurances and things like that, and earn a bit of money hiring your car out to other people as well. So it's basically...
That's cool. So we could get our car utilised even more when both me and you aren't using it, and hire it out to other people just to maximise the cash flow.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the Mighty Up.
And I actually got a free car hire for a day a few months ago because I shared a referral link with somebody who listed their car on there, and I got like credit, which allowed me to hire the electric car for the day so I could go to a business meeting. Yeah.
There's a big company out in America that do this sort of where you hire your own car, and it's just this network of people's cars. You just go and pick them up off their drive and various things and pay them on an hourly basis. It's not really, I can't remember the name of it. It's not really come over here yet, but this is kind of doing that kind of thing. I think it's a great idea. I mean, this is a little bit of a distance, but if we had somebody around the corner that we could just nip and borrow their car, all legit and all the rest of it, it's just brilliant. And it's great for the environment, because it will just encourage people to just pare down the amount of costs. People have 3 cars sat on their drive. For what reason? I mean, you don't run a haulage business like that, do you? You run a haulage business by maximising the utilisation of your vehicles. Yeah. So why do we run our life like that?
And actually, it works out quite cheap as well, because as an hour by hour basis, if you're going for a meeting, it can work out quite expensive, because I needed the car to literally go 3-4 miles across town where I couldn't get a taxi. But it worked out £10 an hour. So by the time I've driven for 5 minutes and then sat in a meeting for 2 hours, obviously I've got to pay for that car while I'm in the meeting as well. But on the days where I hit the motorway and I'm driving for 2-3 hours at £40 a day, including the electric charge that it comes fully charged with.
You're not paying for the fuel on top, are you?
So from that perspective, it was spot on when I did 100 miles on, to Leicester or somewhere.
Amazing. So that's hire car.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to use it, I'll put the referral link on the podcast notes, actually, so I can...
Will you actually remember to do it, though, this time?
So I can get some free credit, and then I can keep using this car for free. That would be really good. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, great. A little, what? Do they do an affiliate scheme? Is that...
They do a referral scheme. So, yeah, if you want to list your car on Hire Car, use my referral link.
Have a go. Great. Well, thanks for joining us for another podcast. I really love this one because I love talking about how I can get a bit more cash in my business. If you want to work with Claire in a business, go to profitcashgrowth.com. And if you want a free business review of your business, Claire will do a completely free review of your accounts to see if there's areas of improvement and things that you can do, or just get a nice report from a finance director to see what's going on there. Do check her out on the YouTube video about the HMRC bits that we've talked about today, which is just goes over a bit more detail. Follow us on all the socials, and as always, please tell one more person about the podcast, and the listenership will continue to grow, and we can continue to give you lots of juicy business tidbits, gossip, and whatever else we're giving here, Claire. Yeah,
shit chat.
See you again next week. Bye.